Do you think that as someone who was a Black head coach in the NFL, the experience was the same, the opportunity was the same, were you treated the same, were you given the same chances or the same opportunities as a white head coach? Is it a different experience as a Black head coach?
Oh, absolutely. First, let me say to your mom and dad, but it's much harder when you're a minority coach because you carry the weight of all the other minority coaches because you need to do well. You need to win. If you don't, to me, it just makes it harder for the next minority coach that's coming up behind you. I was in Oakland, 1 year as the head coach there, 8-8. 8-8 coaches normally don't get fired, but I did. But I understood that because Al Davis had passed, the person that hired me, his son took over. I knew he probably wanted to do different. So you can understand that. You go to Cleveland, you become Pro Football Writers Coach of the Year. You're told they're going to do everything to make you successful. They're going to give you everything you need to have a great team. All people got to do is go check the press conference and see what I said. I made it very clear that I came there to change the organization and get it to winning. Within a month and a half of being there, we stripped the team down. I never knew that was going to happen. I never knew what the plan was. I was locked out of things. I was not led to see things. I didn't have any input. So that was hard. So
what kind of things were you locked out of?
Well,
that normally a head coach would be allowed to be
anything that deals with your team. Anytime you're building a football team, the head coach wants to know what's being put on his team. So I was locked out of information that led to how the team was being put together, how we were going to draft the team, what players we were going to draft. And then I constantly had to fight on those things. And because that began to show me that this was not what I had signed up for.
Do you think you were hired to lose?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's obvious. I mean, no minority coach takes a job or puts himself in a position to lose. You can't, especially a two-time head coach after being fired at 8-8. So I'm definitely going to take another job that's going to lead me to losing. So there's no question that I think they strategically targeted to be the face of what they were looking for. And that's how that came about.
You were 1-31, and then you were offered an extension.
Yes, I was offered an extension that nobody else knew. But you would have to ask the Haslams about that. I couldn't tell you that. I couldn't tell you I was offered an extension, but I was. And I think I was given an extension to slow things down. I think people knew that I was very disappointed. It was a hard time for me personally. I sat there with my wife while Mr. Haslam, him and his wife, in front of my agent said, "We hate what we did to you, put you in a tough spot, and we're trying to make it right. So here is a contract extension, and we're going to do this right." But when you look at it, it was never told to the public. Nobody ever knew. And so to me, that's like hush money, in my opinion. That was to get me quiet and not say anything. But at the time, when you're going through those type of traumatic things, you want to believe that people say, okay, we are going to fix this. We are going to do the right thing. And people forget there's a lot of coaches and coaches' families that I'm responsible for. So it's not like you could just up and quit. It's not like you can just leave. They don't have the same security that I had. So you feel like you need to fight some things out. And if people are telling you that, hey, look, we're going to try to get this right. We're going to put some things in place to make it better. They made some changes within the executive staff. You start to say, you probably feel like there's a little hope, but there's also a little concern that it's not going to get right.
A lot of people are stuck on this idea that the Browns and the Dolphins wanted to lose. What kind of things did the Browns do to try and lose?
Well, you don't understand when people say try to lose, you got to make it look right, right? I mean, you can't, tanking is illegal. That's a quote unquote slap against the shield. Yeah. And so it's all how you pop. And so what people don't understand, tanking, no player is going to intentionally go to a game and not try to play his best. He would get hurt. So I get a little disappointed when people use the word tanking. It's not tanking for players. You can't tell a player to tank. You can't tell a coach to tank, because nowhere in a player's contract or his value is that going to work for him. Is it going to work for a coach? But when an organization has a strategic plan to build a team that doesn't have the best chance to be competitive, okay, when they don't have the best team to put them in position to win, that's truly what that's all about. And so that's how those things work. You build a team that doesn't have the best chance to win week in and week out. They know exactly what those things are that you need in order to be successful. And you play and you compete and you're in games, but it's very hard to win games, and people act like they don't get that. All you got to do is really look at the team and look at the veterans and key positions, and you'll figure it out pretty quickly. I mean, 2017, we had 3 quarterbacks that were on our roster that never won an NFL game in their career. So that's got to tell you something.
Were there any sort of incentives to make the team worse?
There was an incentivized plan. There was a 4-year plan that I did not understand that was brought to me. I had been there for about a month and a half, but it was presented as a bonus structure. All coaches, head coaches, get some type of bonus, whether it's perks or bonus to this, bonus for that, and you're not supposed to pay coaches in the National Football League bonuses for wins and losses. That's what your contract does. But this was put together in an incentivized plan based on things that didn't have anything to do with winning in the first 2 years. Aggregate rankings, situations where you could, and then all bonuses must be NFL approved, and this wasn't. But more so than that, I mean, the things that were on this particular list had nothing to do, in my opinion, with winning and losing. And winning and losing was not talked about in the first 2 years, but yet winning and losing is talked about in year 3 and 4. So that's got to tell you something. So if you're not asked to win in year 1 and 2, how can you expect to win in year 3 and 4 to have this big number for winning? So when I knew about this, I immediately pushed back because I didn't understand it. To me, it had nothing to do with football in the first 2 years. Aggregate rankings, I mean, in order for you to be a pretty good team, you got to be ranked pretty high in some of the rankings. And we were supposed to be in the bottom half of the league. So all those things told me, and you got to put all these things together. And it took me a little time because this is a bonus structure I've never seen before. And I told myself after I saw the team, started to understand a little bit more that, wait a minute, this is not about winning. This is about guys staying together, probably not me pushing back against them because I'm trying to win. I take you back to my press conference. Everything I said is I came there to turn Cleveland around. I didn't come there to lose. So here I am sitting here in this opportunity, which I thought was going to be a tremendous opportunity for me, my family, and all the coaches' families that I brought. And here I am in this unbelievable nightmare. So you do everything you can to push back up against it and fight it. I went on record with Jimmy as saying, I don't want this. I don't want your money. It's not about a bonus for me. Who gets a bonus after going 1 and 15? If anything, you get a pink slip and you go out the door. And he told me, I'll never forget it. He said, this had to be the toughest year of your life, but you did an incredible job. And I'm looking at him going, what do you mean an incredible job? 1 and 15 is not an incredible job. And on we went, where I proceeded to push them on some things that needed to change if I was going to be around, because I didn't think there's no way a coach is going to be around if you continue to lose at the rate that we were losing.
Did you fight back after you were let go?
Absolutely, I did. My first thing was, but during the time when this was all going on, I let the league know that I think that the Browns weren't trying to win. Because again, like I said, I was a second-time NFL head coach and that needed to win. Yeah. Fired at 8-8, so I'm sure not going to sit there at 0 and whatever and think things are going great. So I called the commissioner's office and told him I didn't think they were trying to win. And he said, hey, look, I'll take a look into this. Well, there wasn't much look into it, in my opinion. I just think it's lip service. And so when this was all over, I immediately I used the Constitution and bylaws of the league. I tried to do everything the right way. I tried to use what they said, the process you should go through in order to report things that were fraudulent, because I thought from the beginning I thought my contract, everything that I was told was totally different than what it was going to be. Everything that I was dealing with as far as reporting things to the league and what they're supposed to do, because it says if you bring fraud to the league, then the league is to investigate it. You can go read that in their Constitution and bylaws. And what I found that they was not going to investigate it. They immediately pushed everything over into arbitration, where I lost the case in arbitration.
Do you think that was a cover up?
Well, I mean, in my mind, absolutely. I mean, they're not going to admit their wrongdoing. But like I said, I back up. My disappointment is today I hear that they're going to investigate the situation for Brian Flores, which I think is great.
Yeah.
But this is totally different. I brought them information. There is a paper trail. I have documentation. I have anything and everything that a person would want and need to look at to say, wow. I mean, between conversations, emails, you name it, everything, and said here, and I get no opportunity to even have them go find out if what I'm saying is true. So that's got to tell you something right there.
Do you plan on, or have you talked to Brian's lawyers? And also, do you plan on joining his lawsuit?
I'd rather not comment on that at this time.
Do you think that in the last 2 years they've made it, when they've stated that they support these movements and they are fighting for diversity and against injustice, do you think any of that is genuine?
Well, I think some of it is, but you got to start where you are first, right? I mean, if you want to show that you're being really genuine, you would start to fix the biggest and the major problem that everybody sees, which is in your own house.
Yeah.
It's easy to comment on everybody else's things and fix and make comments because it doesn't touch you, right? It's very easy to kind of hide behind that. But if you were to start where you are and fix it and show people that I'm going to make a difference.
Part of your job as a coach and on the collegiate level is not just to coach football, but also to inspire these young men to be the best young men they can be, and also to go after their dreams. And you're a living, breathing example of somebody who went after their dreams, but for lack of a better term, got screwed. How do you have, and racism seems to play a role in that. How do you have that conversation with these young men? How do you tell them, like, hey, it's going to be harder for you. Hey, was harder for me, but like, go after your dreams, go try to be an NFL coach, go do these things. How do you tell them that when what they're seeing in front of them is that the world is not fair for them? And they see it through the experiences of people they can touch and people they know and their own coach.
And that is a great point, Lauren, but you have to have hope, right? You have to. Without hope, what is life, right? So I'm never going to tell a young man not to go chase his aspiration or the goal that he knows that he wants, especially if it's coaching or whatever, because I think you have to do that. But at the same time, you also have to understand the pitfalls. You know, you have to listen to the experience and make sure you don't make the same mistakes. If I could go back and be the younger Hue, there's a lot of things I would do different. I wouldn't be as trusting. I probably wouldn't be as bullish as I am about my skill, because what happens with coaches, and you just watch the jobs that the minority coaches get. When we take it, we are such alphas. We have that mentality that we're going to show you. We're going to go get it done. But I would say to every coach, make sure you channel that a little bit, because if the contract's not right, you may not have the chance to dictate how to make it work. Yeah. And so there's so many things that I've learned going through this process that would never happen to me again that way. But at the same time, you have to make sure that you're put in a situation where everybody is trying to help you win.
Yeah.
And that's what it's supposed to be when you become a head coach. The people you work for, they're about you. Yeah, and having you be successful and having your value soar, because that means they soar. They're not trying to they shouldn't be trying to bring you down.
Yeah.
It's